All right, now that we know how to work with linked images versus embedded images, that whole number, let's have some fun with this file. Let's get a sense of what you can do with linked pixel-based images inside of Illustrator. In this exercise, we're going to add a stroke to the image, and then we're also going to merge the image. We're going to blend it with a color in order to create a monochromatic effect. It's going to be really cool. And then in the next exercise, we're going to place the image inside of a clipping mask container, and we're going to add a little bit of a page curl effect. I've gone ahead and reverted to the saved version of imageinfront.ai found inside the 21 Photoshop folder. And just so that we have a little bit of room to work, I'm going to expand the artboard. After all, right now I've got an artboard that's exactly the same size as the image. So the image measures 12 inches wide, 9 inches tall. So does the artboard. That's not really necessarily the best way to work because after all, that doesn't really afford me any kind of bleed margin. I don't have any room for error around the edges of this image. And so what I ought to do is just expand the artboard so that there is no bleed and I have a little bit more room to work and I'll be able to better see what I'm doing as well. So I'm going to drop down to this artboard tool and either click on the tool or press Shift-O in order to switch to the artboard edit mode. Then make sure that the center reference point is selected, and it is in my case. If it's not for you, click on it. And then I'm going to add a 1/4 inch margin all the way around, which means I need to add a 1/2 inch to both the width and the height dimensions. So I'll click after the width value, and then I'll type in plus 36 because 36 points is the same as 1/2 inch. Press the tab key and do the same for the height value. Click after it and enter plus 36 as well and press the tab key. And that goes ahead and expands the size of the artboard a 1/2 inch in either direction. So we've got a 1/4 inch margin all the way around. I'll go ahead and press the escape key a couple of times there in order to escape out of the artboard edit mode. And now I'm going to click on the outline of this image to select it. We see a big X through the image. That tells us that it's a linked graphic. Now it's covering up a bunch of other objects on this layer. So I'm going to switch over to the layers panel and I'm going to twirl that layer open. And I can take advantage of that keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift left bracket, Command-Shift left bracket on the Mac to send this image all the way down the stack. Or I could just right-click, choose Arrange, and then choose Send to Back. That works as well. That sends it too far back. It's now all the way at the bottom of the stack. There's a blue rectangle in front of it that measures 12 inches wide, 9 inches tall, so it absolutely covers it up. So I want to move this guy up one object, and I can do that by dragging it here inside the Layers panel, or I can take advantage of the keyboard shortcut Control right bracket, Command right bracket on the Mac. So choose your poison, do either you want. Now then, I want to add a stroke around this image. And I've already really technically shown you how to do that. Back in Chapter 11 of the fundamentals portion of the series, I showed you how to add a stroke, but I showed it to you in the context of creating a bleed margin. Now I want to show you just an everyday average stroke around an image, how that works. So for starters, I'm going to press Control-H or Command-H on the Mac to hide the selection edges so we can see the outline of the image. And I'll go to the Appearance panel. Tells me I have a linked file. That's fine. I'm going to add a stroke to that file by clicking on the Add New Stroke icon down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the panel, or I can press the keyboard shortcut Control-Alt/, Command-Option/ on the Mac. And I'm going to convert that to a thicker stroke, something like, let's say, 4 points, just so we can see it. And it's not showing up. That's interesting. And now I'm going to change the CMYK values here inside the color panel because my stroke is active. I'm going to change them to 50, 50, 50, and then 100% for black so that I have a rich black. That's not really helping matters out. I can't see a stroke. Well, you may recall, here's the problem. When you just place an image loose the way we did a couple of exercises ago, instead of placing it into a shape, into some sort of path container, then Illustrator has nothing to stroke. It doesn't see the edge of the image, so it can't stroke the edge of the image. So we need to give it a virtual edge, and you do that by clicking on Stroke here inside the Appearance panel. You need to make sure the stroke is active. Then you go up to the Effect menu. You choose Convert to Shape, and you choose Rectangle. Now, you could choose one of these other guys if you want to, but then you're going to have, for example, if you choose Ellipse, you're going to have an ellipse in the middle of your image. And because the image itself is rectangular, why then the best thing to choose is Rectangle. So choose the Rectangle command from Convert to Shape. Again, make sure stroke is active, very important. Then here's what's different about this technique than what I showed you back in Chapter 11. You want to turn on the relative checkbox and you want to set both extra width and extra height to 0 points apiece. And then turn on the preview checkbox and suddenly you will see a stroke around your imported image. Then click OK. And the reason that worked, we've got rectangle assigned to stroke, is because we now have a virtual rectangle for the stroke to latch onto. All right, now I want to go ahead and merge this image with that blue rectangle underneath it in order to create a kind of monochromatic effect. But if I were to change the opacity value, which is what I'm going to do right now, I would end up affecting the stroke independently of the other attributes. I don't want to do that. I want to click on a linked file so I'm affecting the entire image. Otherwise, this part isn't going to work. Now I'll switch over to the layers panel and scroll down just so we can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take the image, blend it with this blue path underneath. By going up to the opacity option there in the control panel, click on it. That brings up the transparency panel, about which we are going to learn tons in the very next chapter, by the way. And as opposed to changing the opacity value, I'm going to change the blend mode from normal to luminosity. And what that does is it takes all the luminance information inside the image, that is to say the brightness values, from black to white, and it merges those with the colors from the underlying blue path, and we end up getting this effect right here. And we get the effect on the fly. It's handled very efficiently. It's a really great dynamic effect here inside of Illustrator. And those are a couple of different things that you can do with an imported image inside of Illustrator. In the next exercise, I'll show you how to apply a clipping mask and a page curl.